Hi, I'm Rob Pusey, and today I'm teaching my 16-year-old niece, April, how to drive in the perfect learning car, a 500 horsepower Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Here we go, we are on our way. What do you think the probability is for passing this time?
Hopefully high.
0.1 miles away, April. What is your nervous level on 1 to 10?
A bit high.
There it is, driver's license center. What was the next obstacle here to the permit?
The money.
And what don't they take?
They don't take cash or credit cards.
Really anything?
No.
Like checks or apparently a money order.
Oh yeah.
What's the verdict?
I passed.
Pass! Alright, April, how long have you been anticipating the ability to drive wherever you want? So one thing I usually do as I'm going to my car, I just give it a quick overview to make sure there are no huge red flags, nothing's really sticking out, and no obvious body damage. And one of the big things I look at are the tires. So you can see that today we have our oversized off-road tires mounted, which will come in really handy in case we need to drive over anything. Do you think we'll need that today?
Not today.
So you ready to hop in this thing?
Yep.
The first thing we have to do is set the proper driving position so you have the best control possible over the car. So you can see we have memories, number 1, number 2, number 3, and an extra spot just for you. So the first thing we do is set the distance to the pedals. So the ideal position is when you have the pedal fully depressed, you have a slight bend in your knee. So you're going to want to come back to probably about there. That's good. So the next thing you do is you set the angle of the seat. Any idea how to set the angle?
One of those buttons.
This is for the distance to the driving wheel. What you do is you take your arm and you extend it out forward, straight forward, all the way forward, and your wrist should be resting on the top of here without pulling your shoulders away. So if there's distance right here, you know that you're too far away. So that you'll angle this until your wrist is perfect. Okay, and there's no distance back here, so you have full control. Some cars have adjustable steering wheels also where they move forward, you know, in and out and also up and down, so it's a balance between the two. The last thing you do is set the height of the seat. So when you grab your wheel and when your hands are in this position, your thumb should be at about the same height as your shoulders. Way too tall! Yeah. So we'll lower this thing down. All right, so that's about right. Does that feel comfortable?
Pretty much.
All right, April, after you get your seat set, the next thing you should do, and really the first thing you should do whenever you get a new car, is set your mirrors. So the first thing you set is the rear view mirror, and make sure that that's looking, you know, nice and squarely out the back window. And then you set your side mirrors. And there are a few different theories on how you set them. So what I do is I see how much I can see in this rear view mirror, and then I set the side one so there's a little bit of overlap between the two, so you have like a good frame of reference, and then you can see as wide of a span as possible.
How much of like the ground should you see?
It's like in the same level, the same horizon as the car.
Okay.
Okay, so now the other thing you have to get comfortable with are your blind spots. By looking in these 3 mirrors, it feels like you can see everything behind you, but there's spots that you can't see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get out of the car and I'm gonna wander around, and you'll see the locations where you have a blind spot. So if I'm a car like right next to you on the highway.
Yeah. Can't see you.
Right next to you, you have to glance to the side.
Yeah.
See me?
Yeah.
So so this is the danger zone.
Yeah.
Like right on this corner. But the mirrors are your best friend as you're driving. So you want to maintain really high situational awareness. So knowing where all the other cars are relative to your car. All right, April, so you're big into the equestrian scene. So spend a lot of time with horses, feed them, groom them, ride them, love them. How many horses have you ever ridden at the same time?
Only one.
Just one. So this truck has 500 horsepower. So how do you think your experience is going to translate from 1 to 500?
Quite a bit.
Let's talk about your pedals. So we have your distance, so you're set, but how you use them is really important. So these shoes that you have, those sneakers, anything soft, is easier to drive in because you're feeling the pedals. If you wear like your cowboy boots, you don't have any feel. It's a lot harder to determine how hard you're pushing. If you look at professional driving shoes, they're really soft. In general, for your inputs on the pedals, you want to be gentle and you want to move at the ankle.
Yeah.
So a lot of people make the mistake, like they have their whole leg, they'll go in and out, and that's a gross movement, and you don't have good control. So if this is your foot here, you're using the ankle. And a trick that I have to get even finer control, if these are your toes, I curl my toes inside my shoes, and you have like micro precision in there. All your inputs in general should be smooth and they should be gentle. You'll have most control over the car that way. When you have wild movements, like you move the wheel too wildly or you push too hard, you're creating havoc with the dynamics of the car, and it'll be harder to control. All right, let's talk about hand position. What's the right position?
I'm always told here.
So I went on the track the first time.
Yeah.
My driver instructor said, what do you think you're doing? I'm like, 10 and 2. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? He's like, no. So take your hands and put them both at the very top of the wheel. Now, pretend that you're turning the wheel like this. So sort of like slide your hands back and forth. Now, when you do that, like your whole shoulders are turning, right? Like exaggerate the movement like this, like all the way around.
Yeah.
Right? The whole thing is like sort of moving back and forth. Now put them at 3 and 9.
So like
So like, see these things right here? These are called thumb rests.
Oh.
You know why they're called thumb rests?
Because you put your hands there.
Supposed to rest your thumb there. Yeah, so like if you look at race cars, this is where race car drivers put their hands. Now, if don't hold it tightly, but just sort of keep your hands, right?
Yeah.
You have like the most balanced control of the steering wheel that way. All right, next question. Where is the ignition in this car?
The ignition. Oh,
That's right, it's on the left. Trivia question, why is it on the left side?
because it's a Porsche?
That's right, all Porsches have the ignition on the left. It goes back to the days of racing. So with Le Mans, way back in the day, the race started with the drivers on one side of the track, out of their car, and when the gun went off, they had to run across the racetrack, they had to jump in their cars, they had to start it, and they had to go. So as they jump in, they're starting it with one hand while they're using the other hand to shift into gear. So it saved them like a few split seconds, but it was faster. So they carried that over in the production cars, and here we have them today. They're always on the left. A lot of the modern cars have tire pressure sensors on each of the tires. Some of them just tell you whether the tire is flat or not. On a truck like this, it tells you the exact pressure. So it's really nice because at a glance, you can see, are your pressures in the right range? Where's the horn? Before you can drive this truck, you have to know how to pronounce the name properly. So who makes this car?
Porsche.
That's right, 2 syllables, Porsche.
Porsche.
I don't even have to teach you anything.
Porsche.
I think we're ready to go. You ready for the open road and to strike fear into the hearts of your fellow motorists?
Uh-huh.
All right, let's do this thing. So to start this bad boy up, foot on the brake, and just turn the key.
Not too bad touchy, like.
With the throttle?
Yeah, like it's not gonna like jerk.
Oh yeah, turn signals. You're gonna need those. You push it that way and it goes to the right.
Yeah.
Probably my biggest piece of advice when you're pulling out is you look, and when you make your decision to go, you commit to it and you go. Yes. Like if you start to pull out and you see a car, don't stop. You just go. Yeah, so you're good. Here, we're driving. We're driving!
Yeah.
A lot of new drivers, when they get nervous around oncoming traffic, if you look at that car, you're naturally drawn towards the car. So try not to look at the cars. You're a smooth driver, I can tell already. Like that's the critical thing for like having good control over the car, and if nothing else, just like comfort for your passengers. Do you ever hear like pump the brakes? So pumping the brakes is like the worst possible thing you can do, because if you're pumping the brakes when you're trying to stop, and like you're wreaking havoc again with the dynamics of the car, because every time you push the brake, you're loading the front wheels, like you're transferring all the way to the front wheels, and then when you release, it unloads the front wheels, go back, and then when you push again, it goes forward. What you want to do if you're ever doing that, they call it threshold braking. So like you want to push down as close to locking up the wheels as possible without locking them up. But when you're coming up to a traffic light, I found that there's a decision point. So in other words, like light's green, but what if the light starts to turn yellow? So what you do as you're coming up to the light, you picture almost like an invisible point where like that's your decision point, where like you're going to stop if you're anywhere before that, if it turns yellow. But if you're past that point, then you keep going. As long as you program this in your head, these few simple things, you'll never have any of that stress.
Right.